If you have an online business, then you likely already have a website, which is great, but have you ever stopped to ask yourself, is your website actually helping you grow your business? Your website is your digital storefront as a business owner, and oftentimes it's a potential client's first real introduction to you, so it's super important that your website is designed to actually convert those visitors into customers or clients. Today I'm sharing 5 things your website needs in order for it to truly be your best employee. Welcome to the Six Figure Brand Podcast, where each week we're pulling back the curtain on what it really takes to build a six-figure business as an online service provider. I'm your host, Morgan. I'm a branding expert, online agency owner, mom of 2, and military spouse, and I'm obsessed with helping entrepreneurs like you understand the ins and outs of branding so that you can use it to grow your business without sacrificing your sanity. Whether you're just starting out or focused on scaling, we're diving into everything you need to build a profitable and sustainable online business. Let's get to it. Attention. So it's really important that you immediately, as in like within the first 3 to 5 seconds of reading, communicate what you do, who you do it for, and what the next step that they can take to work with you is. So we want all of that to be in the above the fold section, which is kind of that first section that shows up on your website before you start scrolling. Super, super, super important that we have a call to action there. So a button that says something like book a call, learn more, contact me, etc. This is not the place where we want to tell your life story or for people to get to know you. This is short, sweet, to the point. Why should they care and why should they continue scrolling? So some big mistakes that I see often in this section of the website is starting off with things like, hi, I'm so-and-so, and kind of telling your whole life story. That is useful on your site, but there are other places where it's better to put that. Putting that in your top above the fold section really wastes some super valuable real estate, and people just don't want to spend that much time to figure out whether or not they even care to continue reading. I think another thing that has gotten popular lately is using like overly cutesy and flowery language that doesn't actually say anything. So for example, things like helping ambitious women who have a strong heart for service grow into confident business owners who love the life they've created. What did I even just say? Instead, I could have just put business coaching for female service providers, and that would have been a lot easier to digest and a lot easier for someone to quickly self-identify and say, oh, hey, I'm a female service provider and I'm looking for a business coach, and then decide to continue exploring more of your website. The next tip is going to be user-friendly design and navigation. So I cannot stress this enough. We want to make it stupidly easy for somebody to use your website. This is going to look like super clear navigation at the top of your website. That's where we are trained to look for the buttons in the different pages, right? So we don't want to like put them somewhere weird that somebody's going to have to search for. Do what people are expecting and make it easy for them to find what they're looking for. Another thing, and this kind of ties back to that overly cute language point that I mentioned earlier, is going to be just call things what they are. You don't need a super cutesy creative name for everything, right? If you have a blog, call it a blog. Don't call it from the desk of or love notes or what have you. People know what a blog is. Just call it that. There's also in kind of the like UX design world, a rule that people like to follow called the 3-click rule, which says that visitors should be able to find what they need within 3 clicks. When I design websites, I prefer 2 clicks. So for example, somebody should land on your homepage, find a link to your services. So that's 1 click, and then read about your services on that page and be able to decide that they either want to buy now or book a call. So that would be 2 clicks to get to the thing that they're looking for, which is either purchasing or getting on a call with you to learn about your services. The next thing that kind of falls under like user-friendly design and navigation is going to be mobile responsiveness. So at this point in the year 2025, well over 50% of website traffic comes from a mobile device. So it's super important that it looks nice, it loads quickly, it functions well, it's easy to use. If somebody tries to open your website on their phone from a social media link or something, and it either takes too long to load or it like is clunky to use, they're not going to go whip out their laptop and be like, oh, let me try to access the desktop site instead. They're just going to close it and move along. And finally, we want to avoid some of the more common design mistakes that I see. So this is going to be things like using fonts that are too small. A good rule of thumb is to not go below probably a 16-point font, but that also really depends on what font you're using. So I would just suggest always testing it out on multiple different devices and screen sizes and making sure that it's always super readable. Another really common kind of misstep that I see is just getting a little carried away with colors. And this is a little bit more of a branding issue than website specific, but we just want to make sure that we are keeping the color palette reined in a little, using colors that are strategically chosen based on color psychology and your ideal client, etc. But most importantly for websites is making sure there's a good contrast between your font color and your background color. This is kind of a big accessibility issue that a lot of people really miss on. If someone who's like visually impaired is using a screen reader and you don't have enough contrast between the font color and the background color, then screen readers are not going to be able to read your text, and then you're kind of missing out on some potential clients that are not able to digest the information on your website. And then finally, just an overall design point is we just want to make sure that it is not too cluttery, right? So no huge giant paragraphs of text, things that are not scannable, not too busy, like getting crazy with animations. When it comes to website design, the goal is for people to be able to easily consume the information on there. So a lot of times simpler is definitely better. All right, number 3 is going to be and for number 3, make sure that you're including enough information on your website for somebody to make a decision on whether or not to move forward. This sounds kind of silly and like obvious, but I can't tell you how many websites I've audited where I look through their whole website and I still at the end don't know what exactly their packages are or how I can work with them or what their process looks like. And for somebody who really wants to have a lot of information before they even decide to contact you, they might just say, okay, well, I still don't know enough about this person or about their services, so I'm just going to move along to the next person who does give me that information. So what this is going to look like, at least for most of my clients who I build websites for, is obviously an overview of your services. So what can you do for them and how are they going to know if they're a good fit for you? I like to get into the nitty gritty of like packages and scope. So specifically, what are they getting? What are their deliverables? Pricing is a little bit of a controversial one. Some people are really big advocates that you should not put pricing on your website because you don't want people to like shop you and just base their decision only on that. Other people really value the transparency of listing your price on your website. I am in the second camp. I've tried it both ways, and both, to be completely honest, have worked for me. But if I were to choose one, I would say put your pricing on your website for a few reasons. First of all, I think it helps prevent having to have the conversation with somebody when they come to you and you get through a whole discovery call and then you say, okay, this package is $1,000. And then they had it in their head that, oh, it was only going to be $200 or $300. And then you feel like your time's wasted. They feel embarrassed that they can't afford you. It just kind of creates just some icky feelings all around. And so I think it just also gives people a kind of a baseline of what to expect. Now, if you're thinking, well, I custom quote every single project, that's fine. I would still suggest that you put a starting at price on there. And then you can put a little note of like, final price will depend on XYZ. And I think that's fine. I just really strongly feel that it's important to give somebody at least a ballpark so that they know whether it's even worth their time reaching out to you or not. The next thing that I like to include as far as making sure that we're giving people enough information is some details about your process. So what does it look like to work with you? How long does it take? What's going to be required of them? This is definitely something that I think you would go more into depth on a sales call because you want to be able to speak to like their project specifically. But I think giving just some sort of frame of reference for that is going to be really helpful. For example, if you are a website designer, just to use an easy example, and somebody needs a website and they need it done in a month, and you already have on your website timelines typically range from 8 to 12 weeks because that's how your process works, then they're going to know that they shouldn't book a call with you and they're not going to waste everyone's time. Conversely, if you are a designer who does like a website in a week type project, then that might be a really big selling point because they want to get theirs done faster. So they're going to reach out to you before they reach out to somebody else. And then last thing under this section is going to be social proof. So testimonials are king here. If you can get video testimonials, that's ideal, but even written ones is fine. I do like to kind of employ the practice of if it's going to be a written testimonial, at least link to that person's social profile or their website or something, just so that people kind of know like this is a real person and you're not just making this up. Depending on what service you provide, case studies and portfolio can be really awesome. So obviously I'm a brand strategist and designer, so I have a ton of past projects on my website so somebody can look through those and one, see that I've successfully done the thing before, and two, kind of get a feel for like my style and see if that's a good fit for them. And then finally, this one I think is becoming more important just in the last few years of kind of the way that online business has evolved is tangible results. So for some businesses, I understand that this might be more difficult than others. For example, if you're a fitness coach, it's really easy to say somebody lost 20 pounds or increased their bench press by 50% or what have you. But if you are a mental health therapist, it's going to be a lot harder to put numbers to those things. But just this morning, I had a potential client reach out to me and say, hey, could you talk me through kind of what the results were of how much some of your clients' businesses grew after they worked with you? And lucky for me, I had that answer handy and was able to answer it well. But I think that in a time where there are so many options for online businesses and so many different people that a potential client could work with, it's a little hard to know like who is legit and who's just kind of full of it a little bit. And so having those tangible results that you can share will really do a lot to set you apart. So the other thing with kind of going the extra mile to make sure that you're giving people all the info that they need is it's going to save you time in the long run. So a lot of these are questions that you would probably have to answer on a sales call. But since you've already included all of this in your website, it's going to cut down on the back and forth, the amount of time it takes them to make a decision whether or not they want to work with you, the amount of questions you're answering, those kind of things. And it's also going to really set you apart because you are not making them do extra work to get that. Is your brand and website feeling stale, outdated, and disjointed? If you're feeling a little called out, we should chat. Spect & Co is here to help you show up with more confidence and book more clients through personalized and strategic branding and website design. Anyone could design you a pretty logo, but our strategy-backed system has helped our clients triple their audience size, double their revenue year over year, and increase their rates by over 30%. If that sounds too good to be true, I promise it's not. Use the link in the show notes to book a free discovery call so we can chat about what strategic branding and web design could mean for your business. Information. Fourth, we have optimize your website for lead generation. So this sounds really techie and cumbersome, and it's not. Basically, what it means is that we want to make it easy for someone to let you know that they're quote unquote a warm lead so that they're even maybe interested in working with you. So first and foremost, this is going to mean having clear calls to action that are easy to find and that make somebody want to click on them, right? So things like making sure that your button color really stands out against your background color so that somebody's not having to search for it. Making sure that there are plenty of them on the page, making sure that the text that you put in that button is clear. So back to that point about like not using overly flowery language. If your button is to book a discovery call with you, just make it say book a call. It doesn't need to say something cute of like, I'm ready to change my life or blah, 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 blah. People want to know what they're going to get when they click that button. So I'm a fan of just making it as clear and straightforward as possible. Additionally, if someone is not yet ready to like pull the trigger on working with you, whether that be buying on your website or booking a call or what have you, we want to give them another option of like an additional way to take action that is maybe a little lower bar to entry. So this is going to be something like a freebie or an opt-in that allows you to collect warm leads of people who are not quite ready to work with you, but might be in the future. So things like quizzes, free resources, a free audit, those type of things are really great for getting somebody on your email list so that you can start to market to them and warm them up. And so that they're not getting to your site and saying, shoot, this service is $1,200. I don't have that yet. And just leaving and totally forgetting about you. They can at least kind of get in your world so that, you know, once they do have the budget for that, then you're the first person that comes to mind because you've been marketing to them this whole time. So once you have a free opt-in or a way for somebody to kind of self-select and get into your world, then the question becomes, okay, how do I put these on my website? Where do they go, right? So there are 4 places that I always put this type of stuff both on my site and client sites. First is going to be the announcement bar at the top of your site. That will change. So if you have a certain service that you're promoting, then maybe you want to put that there and then switch back to your opt-in whenever you don't have something that you're promoting or like a time sensitive thing. That's fine. Second one, people always cringe when I say this, is pop-ups. So pop-ups work. I have to convince clients of this all the time, but you can do them in a way that's like tasteful and not in your face and annoying. And without fail, every time I put an opt-in or something I'm trying to promote in a pop-up, it always converts better than whenever I have it just worked into the sales page or in an announcement bar or something like that. So don't sleep on pop-ups. Next is going to be within blog posts. The key here is that hopefully if you're doing your SEO right, which we'll talk about here in a second, sometimes the first page that somebody lands on your website is a blog post. So they might never make it to your homepage, and we want to still give them an option within that post to take action. Now, the other key here is make the opt-in make sense for the post. So for example, if you are a health and wellness coach, right? So like you coach people on fitness and nutrition, and your blog post is 10 tips to get your first pull-up, but your opt-in is like a meal planning ebook, that doesn't really make sense. So I'm not saying just go stuff every single blog post with whatever opt-in you have, but the ones that make sense for each particular blog post, if there's an opportunity, then I highly recommend including them. And then finally, on your services page. So I kind of talked about this a minute ago of if somebody lands on your services page and for whatever reason realizes, okay, I'm not quite ready for this service yet, we still want to give them a way to stay connected with you. So that's where, like on my services page, I have a opt-in for my 5-minute brand audit. So if somebody isn't really sure that they want to work with me or that they even need branding yet, they can opt in and get their free audit, and that will help get them a little more clarity and also help them kind of stay connected with me for when they are ready to take that next step. And then finally, make it easy to contact you. So I cannot tell you how many websites I've gone on and I've been like, I just want to send this person a message and ask them a question. And there's not a way for me to do that. Their email address isn't listed anywhere. There's not a contact form. My only options are book a call or fill out an inquiry form, which I understand trying to streamline your process and saying, hey, these are the 2 ways to get started. But I think that you close yourself off from some potential opportunities by making it too difficult for somebody to just shoot you a message and ask you a question or send you an email or what have you. So have a contact page. If you are worried about like spam messages, then don't include your email, but at least include a form where somebody can just say, hey, I was wondering about this. And then you can start the conversation with them. All right. And then the 5th and final tip for how to help your website convert better is going to be SEO and performance optimization. So I'm going to start this one out with being very transparent about the fact that I am not SEO expert. I know a lot about it from designing websites, and I definitely am able to set up a website with like SEO best practices in mind. But anytime that we want to really dig deep into SEO within my agency, we have contractors who we bring in to help with that. So if you are wanting to go super deep on SEO, I would say that is something that is definitely worth investing in a pro, and feel free to reach out to me and I can connect you with some people. But let's talk about kind of the basics that you definitely can do yourself on your website. So first is going to be quick load speed. So remember all the way at the beginning, whenever I said somebody's going to choose to leave your website within 10 to 20 seconds, if your website is loading for that whole 10 to 20 seconds, you're totally screwed. Like they're not going to reach out to you. They're not going to sit and wait. You just lost them. So some ways that you can do this are, one, to minimize unused code. Particularly whenever I build Squarespace websites or I like build a site that someone else has done, there will be some CSS and HTML code in there that was for something someone had on their site a long time ago, and they took that thing off their site and they never cleaned up the code. Google has to load all of that every single time, or whatever browser you're using has to load all of that every single time that someone pulls up your site. So if there's a bunch of extra stuff in there that you don't need, it's making it take way longer to load than what is needed. Next is going to be compress your images. So we want to be using JPEG files, and we only need them to be 72 DPI to look clear on web. So we don't need to be using these huge 25 megabyte print ready images. If you just Google image compressor online, there will be a ton of websites you can use to do this, or you can do it within Photoshop or even within Canva. A good resource that I like for testing your page load speed is if you just Google page speed insights. That'll kind of walk you through where it's making things take longer, what you can fix, whether your site has a good load score, etc. So that'd be a good place to start. Next is going to be basic SEO essentials. So we want to make sure that you have Google Analytics and Search Console connected. A lot of people don't realize that these are 2 different things. So Google Analytics tells you about what kind of traffic your website's getting, where it's coming from, etc. Search Console tells you how your website is showing up in search. You want both of them Next is going to be making sure you have a Google business profile set up. I shamedly just probably in the last 2 months did this for my business, and I've been in business for 10 years. So if you haven't done it yet, don't feel bad. A lot of people think that this is only useful for like brick and mortar in-person websites because they think that it's location based, and it is kind of location based, but having the Google business profile helps you rank higher on Google, which is great. It also gives people a way to quickly and easily both see your reviews and leave reviews for you. And for lack of better phrasing, it just makes you look and feel a little more legit when somebody Googles you. So highly, highly recommend that. And then finally is going to be on-page SEO. So if you know what keywords you're trying to rank for, we want to try to organically work those into your copy, image descriptions, etc. One quick and easy thing you can do is go through your website and rename all your images. So instead of image_5679, in my case, I name all the images of me on my website, brand strategist for online business. So those types of things. And then finally is going to be SEO friendly blogging. So people really overthink SEO and they think that it's like this big like black box mystery is what my friend Amy calls it. And it kind of is, but it's kind of not. So what you want to do is put yourself in your audience's shoes of what is something that someone's looking to hire a business like mine. What kind of questions are they asking Google? And then create content that answers those questions. So for example, I have some content that is like 3 ways to know if it's time for a rebrand, and how to audit your own brand website, and color theory for beginners, and those type of things, because that's topics that I know that people who are about ready to hire a brand designer, those are things that they're looking for answers to. Some other suggestions for like content topic ideas. I really like the website Answer the Public. That's a pretty good resource. I think there's a free option and a paid option, so you could start there. And then Google suggestions. So if you find some keywords or like phrases that people are searching and then type them in and then look at what else Google is suggesting, that's a really good place to start also. And then I use ChatGPT, tell it a little bit about, hey, here's my business, here are my services, here's my ideal client and kind of my goals. What are some SEO friendly blog topic ideas? And that is a good place to start brainstorming also. Okay, so there you have it. Our 5 tips for an effective website that converts are: number 1, clear and compelling messaging. Number 2, user-friendly design and navigation. Number 3, plenty of information in order to make a decision on whether to move forward. 4, optimize for lead generation. And 5, SEO and performance optimization. So I know there was a lot here. I would suggest just going back through and maybe like re-listening to the episode on 2 times and just making a list of some of these things that are low-hanging fruit that you can make some quick changes to really see an improvement on your website. The other thing that I highly, highly, highly suggest is make sure you have Google Analytics connected. Make some of these changes and regularly check your analytics to see, okay, did these changes that I made make things worse, make things better? Did they make any difference at all? I check my website stats like probably about weekly, but I would say at minimum once a month would be a good idea, just to kind of keep a pulse on what's working, what's not working, where's your traffic coming from, are the changes you're making have any impact, etc. And if you would like my eyeballs on your website for very personalized feedback and suggestions, I would highly encourage you to book a free 5-minute brand audit. I will take a look at your website, your social profiles, whatever other branding materials you have, and give you my feedback on what's working well, what you can do better, some quick and easy wins that you can have to make some fast improvements, etc. So I will drop the link for that in the show notes. I want to shout out my friend and SEO and digital marketing strategist, Danielle Ziegler. Her business is Ziegler and Company Digital Marketing. She's a client of Spect & Co. So we've been working over the last year on a huge brand and website overhaul for her, which has been super exciting. We're getting ready to launch here in the next couple of weeks. And Danielle is also going to come into my business and work with some of my clients on some SEO stuff. So it's a super exciting partnership. Her and I have been friends for a long time, and it's super cool to get to work together and see each of our businesses kind of grow and evolve alongside each other. So if you need SEO or some digital marketing support, I highly recommend reaching out to Danielle and her team. I will link her information in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in to the 6-Figure Brand Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to rate the show and leave a review on whatever app you're listening on. And as a thank you, I'll send you coffee on me. Yes, I'm serious. As a smaller show for now, you taking the time to do this makes a huge impact on how we can reach more people and how I can continue to create this content for free. When you take a screenshot of your review, follow and tag me on Instagram at @SpectandCo. I'll send you a $5 Starbucks gift card. As always, don't forget to check out the show notes for any links or resources I mentioned during the episode. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week.